Hello, good morning. It's Paul Lum. I am the California project manager for the American Farmland Trust. My topic today is soil health practices in California almonds, estimating economic and environmental outcomes from two orchards. The American Farmland Trust was founded in 1980. Our mission is to preserve the land that sustains us, protect farmland, promote environmentally sound farming practices, and keep farmers on the land. Project goal is to increase on-farm adoption of healthy soils practices. We recognize that many growers are hesitant to adopt practices that improve soil health. There is uncertainty about costs, crop management, equipment requirements, net returns, and soil health benefit. The goal for the project is to incentivize the adoption of healthy soils practices by quantifying the economic and environmental outcomes and develop a persuasive educational tool to convince farmers to adopt these practices on their farms. Why quantify soil health outcomes? We know there's scientific evidence for environmental and soil benefits of conservation practices. At the farm level, we can measure soil organic matter, nutrient retention, bulk density, infiltration, water holding capacity. We can measure chemical properties and biological properties. But there is a lack of quantitative data about economic benefits. What is the net profit? The barriers to adoption for soil health practices, lack of awareness, lack of access to information, and attitudes about environmental quality. There are few other economic case studies available. 3 studies enlisted are 8 farmers total, and we hope to fill that void. American Farmland Trust case studies are developed by assessing grower adoption of 4 healthy soils practices. 1, nutrient management, referring to leaf and soil sampling, fertigation for almonds, targeted fertilizer applications. We advocate fertilizer and nutrient applications to meet the demand of the crop, minimize nitrate leaching. In California, nitrate leaching into groundwater is a serious, critical issue, and nutrient management is very important. It also includes scrutinizing the fertilizer formulations and applying the best fertilizer formulations due to best management practices for nitrogen management. Conservation cover for almonds, that's referring to both seeded cover crops and resident vegetation that a grower may manage in his orchard. Mulching refers to chipping the annual prunings and leaving the chippings on the surface of the soil. And compost. The objectives and deliverables for the project. 1, methods to identify outcomes. We identify 3 methods. 1 for economic outcomes. We use the NRCS Level 3 T-chart and AFT partial budget analysis. For water quality outcomes, we use USDA's Nutrient Tracking Tool, or NTT. For climate outcomes, we use USDA's Comet Farm Tool. We find soil health successful farmers. That is, farmers that have adopted soil health practices, are successful and continue to implement adoption and willing to share their story. We interview them, prepare case studies, which is a user-friendly 2-page document. And that goes through an NRCS review, and publish the studies, disseminate them to farmers, professionals, the general public, in an effort for outreach and information sharing. The economic analysis for the Tom Rogers Almond Farm using the partial budget analysis method. This is a table illustrating the economic assessment. Column on the left includes increase in net income reported by the grower, decreases in production costs. column on the right, decreases in net income and increases in costs. And so these are farm management input costs, or decrease or increase based on the soil health adoption and the changes the grower had to make to adopt those practices. For water quality, the nutrient tracking tool, it's a free online tool, and we can estimate nitrogen, phosphorus, and sediment loss for all crops. Here's a page from the website. The site address is listed below. Comet Farm, we can compare carbon and greenhouse gas emissions between a grower's current practices and future practices, or past practices and current practices. So it's a whole farm and ranch carbon and greenhouse gas accounting system at the farm level. The website address is at the bottom. And the findings from Comet Farm are carbon sequestration between prior practices and current practice. This is the EPA greenhouse gas equivalency calculator website. I know it's very small, it's hard to see, but the far right table, the user enters the carbon sequestration determined from Comet Farm, and the lower tables provide equivalent amounts of, for instance, cars off the road through carbon sequestered, or trees planted, the number of trees planted over a 10-year period, the equivalency based on carbon sequestered by a farmer's practices. Lower corner is the site address. There are 8 AFT soil case studies published across the country, including Ohio, New York, and Illinois, with various crops that are predominantly grown in the Midwest and New York State. Two soil health cases in California in the San Joaquin Valley of the Central Valley, and both cases are in almonds. The first case study that we published, Ralph Souter of Akuye Farms in Merced County, his practices that he adopted since 2004: nutrient management, conservation, cover, mulching, and compost across 116 acres. The partial budget analysis found an annual change in per acre net income of $657 an acre over a 14-year period since the dates of adoption. Ralph says, quote, "I am a firm believer that these practices made my trees and soils healthier." A little more detail on Ralph Souter. He attributes yield increases due to improved soil health. He has measured soil organic matter content and observed greater microbial activity, improved nutrient cycling, water holding capacity, water infiltration, decreased compaction, greater tilth, and improved tree vigor. He has experienced decreased costs. Herbicide sprays and miticide sprays have resulted in a cost reduction. Mulching is lower cost than burning prunings. Ralph experienced increased costs through compost application. Fertilizers, he changed fertilizer types to accommodate fertigation systems and drip, which makes his fertilization more efficient, but more costly with different types of fertilizer products. And he is also applying micronutrient blends, microbial products, and humic acids, so that those nutrients all have replaced synthetic UN32 and CAN17 fertilizers that he applied prior to 2004. Increased cost due to installing an irrigation system. He converted to drip, which has proven to be more efficient as far as water and nutrient. water quality and climate benefit through the tracking tool NTT. We found nitrogen losses reduced by 98% and a sediment loss reduction. The Comet Farm tool, we found a 16% reduction in total greenhouse emissions. In the process of developing a case study, we collect input data, farm management data from farmers, including machinery, herbicide usage, miticide usage, fertilizer usage, fungicide usage. In detail are comparisons of each grower and their costs or increases. We discuss with a grower their compost management plan, what type of compost they apply, how often, what their costs are. And irrigation, Tom Rogers was able to reduce his irrigation application by 25% due to improved water retention, water infiltration. So he saved $95 an acre. Ralph Souter reported no change. The environmental benefit and yield comparison for water quality, Rogers estimated a minimal reduction in nitrogen and sediment losses. Souter, the NTT, estimated a 98% reduction in nitrogen losses. Climate improvement for Rogers, GHG emissions reduced by 29%. For Souter, GHG emissions reduced by 16%. Yields, Rogers reports an increase in yield of 10% on the average since 2009. We realize that yields are dependent on climate and pollination periods, but over an average, his yields increased by 10%. Souter by 20% since 2004. Both growers attribute yield increases due to improved soil health and therefore greater tree vigor. Tom Rogers says since 2009, we have seen better water infiltration, soil tilth, and an explosion of earthworms. So the overarching findings, benefits across 2 almond orchards, average improved yield, 15%, attributable to soil health practices over a 12-year period. Average change in per acre net income, adjusted for inflation, $824 per acre over 12 years. So I want to thank you for allowing me to present and introduce AFT's case studies and our work. There I've posted the websites for AFT and AFT's Farmland Information Center and a link to the soil case study work that we have done, a link directly to the publications. So please contact me if you have any questions. Thank you very much.